Hey everybody, Matty here with Altcoin Buzz. Hope you're having a great one. Earlier in the day, we were discussing updates with regards to some of our favorite altcoin projects, and there's just so much happening right now with Ethereum and Bitcoin. It warranted actually a separate video and another discussion. I alluded to this observation here made by Ryan Watkins, who's now pointing out that Ethereum's daily transaction volume is exceeding that of Bitcoin. Now, at the time of this recording, Ethereum's price is below its all-time high. We're currently sitting at about $1,370 or so, but it may well be higher by the time you sit down and watch this. Bitcoin is also in the $35,500 range, but again, that could change by the time you watch this video. By everybody's estimation here, and based on these leading volume indicators, Ethereum is looking very, very strong right now. We're going to be discussing those numbers. We're also going to be discussing these observations here by Spencer Noon, who points to 11 signs why Ethereum is going to blow past its previous all-time high. We're then going to launch into discussion at a macro level of Bitcoin. We have presidential candidates coming out in Ecuador that are talking about national cryptocurrency propositions. Following the idea of Bitcoin, we have Spanish soccer players, football players, I guess, if you're from that country, that are talking about being paid in Bitcoin, a la Russell Kung. We'll be discussing national initiatives, Bitcoin mining in the Middle East, in Pakistan, why countries like Iran are trying to circumvent regulations by focusing on Bitcoin mining. Same goes for those countries that are dealing with inflationary issues, such as Turkey, such as Venezuela. Of course, we have exchange-traded Bitcoin products that are launching in the market, courtesy here of CoinShares. And then we also have this amazing news here by Uniswap, which is now looking at $1 billion in daily transaction volume as the new normal. We'll talk you guys through some numbers with regards to that and lead on some rather optimistic developments here in the automotive space with regard to supply chain authentication that really bodes well for projects like VeChain, which, as you can see today, are soaring up over 14%. So guys, if you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, of course, be sure to like and subscribe to Altcoin Buzz. Ryan Watkins here of Masari. Ethereum's daily transaction volume is going parabolic. Ethereum now settles $12 billion in daily transactions, and that's $3 billion more than Bitcoin. So Ethereum, $12 billion, Bitcoin somewhere in the $9 billion range. Imagine not being bullish on Ethereum. And this is a related, I guess, observation or set of observations here that you can read up on Masari.io. ETH 2.0, the next evolution of the crypto economy. We'll link to this in the description below if you're interested. But what we're more interested in here is the fact that Ethereum processes 28% more transactions than Bitcoin. It's the sort of thing that, if you weren't paying close attention, and even if you are paying close attention, somebody like myself, for example, this still comes as a shocking surprise. And here's what's really encouraging, at least that's my takeaway, is that when you look at Google search volume, despite how well Ethereum is currently doing, it's only about 14% as popular when compared to Bitcoin. Even though Ethereum itself reached its all-time peak in terms of popularity as its own search term, it's still only 14% as popular as Bitcoin right now. Spencer Noon here is super bullish on Ethereum, pointing out 11 signs Ethereum is going to blow past its all-time high. Starting with this one here, Ethereum continues to dwarf the entire crypto space in terms of fees paid. About $7.25 million average every day, proving it's the most useful network in the world. And look, right now, despite how absurd those fees are, the market, is still willing to pay them. It speaks to the popularity and I guess almost that sense of urgency that people have right now. Reason number 2, Ethereum is on its way to an all-time high. The number of large ETH transactions, so over $100,000, is 7 times smaller than during the 2018 all-time highs. This is a sign that whales and institutions still haven't entered the game. I would take it one step further, and I would say that, in terms of transactional data, it suggests that ETH is more distributed and is being transacted in smaller volumes, but in higher numbers by a higher number of people. A pretty encouraging and pretty bullish metric. Reason number 3 that ETH is on its way to new all-time highs. Hash rate is itself at an all-time high, 313.12 terahash seconds, a sign that miners have never been more confident. Reason number 4, Ethereum has nearly 550,000 daily active addresses. That's the 90-day moving average, which is a figure that has doubled year to date. So doubled in 2021. Wow. And now sits comfortably at all-time highs as well. Reason number 5 that ETH is on its way to new all-time highs. There are now more than 1.25 million DeFi users, decentralized finance. That's a figure that continues its parabolic uptrend and suggests that Ethereum's biggest use case is on a path toward product market fit. Reason number 6, there is now more than $25 billion locked in DeFi, with 21 different projects having more than 100 million TVL, which is a sign that the ecosystem is maturing rapidly and becoming institutional grade. And we talk about this periodically from time to time. By checking in on that number on DeFi Pulse, I'm not surprised in the least that it's above 25 billion. I think it was at 24 3/4 last time we checked. Expect that to rise much, much, much higher. Reason number 7, that Ethereum is on its way to new all-time highs. Almost $22 billion in stablecoin supply now exists on Ethereum, an increase of about $20 billion in the past year, which is a sign of major demand for crypto dollars. Reason number 8, monthly DEX volume stands at more than 30 billion. That's up about 50 times year over year, a sector where DeFi is starting to rival CeFi. Reason number 9, that ETH is well on its way to all-time highs and beyond. More than $20 billion has been deposited into lending protocols, with outstanding loans close to $4.5 billion. This is a sign that DeFi lending is becoming more battle-tested. Reason number 10, ETH is steadily flowing out of exchanges, including more than 530,000 on one day last week. That's about $740 million worth of an Ethereum, and this is a telltale sign of accumulation. And finally, Spencer's 11th reason why ETH is on its way to all-time highs and beyond. 2.57 million ETH has been sent to the ETH2 deposit contract, a figure alone that would be good for the number 12 crypto asset by market cap, a sign that confidence in Ethereum's next generation upgrade 2.0 is high. So we have some terrific reasons there justifying a new all-time high and then some for Ethereum. A lot of the numbers that Spencer draws from can be found here on Dune Analytics. This is actually a dashboard of DEX, decentralized exchange metrics, which we're going to come to a little bit later in this video. But as you can see here, I highly encourage Dune Analytics because they do a great job of presenting some pretty crucial information, but when taken all together and presented in the way that they do, it's a pretty unique offering, and they do a good service. So more on that in just a second, but do check out Dune Analytics for more info on Spencer's observations there if you're interested. You can also check out Ethereum metrics and statistics here on beaconchaw.in. You can check out information about the number and history of daily blocks proposed, the number of validators, as well as a whole bunch of other metrics as well. We'll link to this in the description below. And for a recap of some of those 11 indicators and reasons that suggest Ether's new all-time high is really just the beginning, you can check out this piece on Cointelegraph.com. And finally, here on the subject of Ethereum, we have Rookie XBT on Twitter with this opinion: ETH gonna do the crazy in my opinion. People fading it because funding is high is the exact reason why it'll keep going up. Ethereum, Bitcoin hasn't looked this good in years. Really think ETH just steals the show for the rest of Q1. Underexposed to Ethereum is going to be a thing. And despite all of the positives that we've been discussing, this is a major one that I have, admittedly to my own fault, left off the list here. If you compare Ethereum to Bitcoin, which is a very significant observation to make, you can see here that in terms of historical precedence, we have a lot higher to go. So right now we have a relatively undervalued Ethereum, despite just kind of reaching all-time highs just barely this week. We have a very undervalued asset in relation to its Bitcoin performance. Do expect this to change in the days and the weeks and the months ahead. Okay, enough about Ethereum. We have some positive Bitcoin news now. We have positive news all around, in fact, but on decrypt.co, we have presidential candidates out of Ecuador that are proposing national cryptocurrencies. This is not unlike what was proposed and then drafted in Venezuela for the petrodollar, but you can see that this idea, this meme, if you will, and I mean that in a literal sense, this idea of cryptocurrency and decentralization is spreading. People can understand the success of Bitcoin Bitcoin's engineering, and they want to latch on to that, and for good reason. So in brief here, a presidential candidate for Ecuador has found a way to keep the gold standard alive, and it's going to be through blockchain. At least that's the proposal. Giovanni Andrade has proposed to mint a gold-backed cryptocurrency. We're not sure whether or not he has the blessing of the party or his constituents, but look, time will tell, and it's something that's going to be discussed. I don't really want to get into this story any further here other than to make the observation that this is now becoming more and more part of the national and international discussion, including the geopolitical discussion. And we also have, at a more casual level, arguably, athletes in the sporting world that are kind of carrying that torch that was initially lit by Russell Okung of the NFL. So here on dailymail.co.uk, third division Spanish side make transfer history by becoming first professional team ever to buy a player with Bitcoin, as ex-Real Madrid B striker David Barral joins Inter Madrid. And David became the first player to be transferred solely by a Bitcoin purchase. And by the way, it's not an original hypothesis. It's not an original point of view. But, my position is that Russell Okung was the first of many athletes, the first of many music stars, musicians, artists, the first of many celebrities, and really the first of many business people, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a business decision and a contract by people that are financially savvy and perhaps, a little bit liberty oriented. Russell Okung, now you have this individual I've never heard of personally. I'm not a European football fan. David Barral, you guys let me know in the comments below whether or not he's a good player. But you're going to see a deluge across all of the major sporting leagues and across media and entertainment, you name it, any category you can think of, even extending into things that, at a more everyday local level, like real estate. This is the popularization of Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency. And so kudos to David Barral, kudos to Real Madrid here. We expect to see many, 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 many more such examples. Going back to the international for just a second, Pakistan here and the Middle East, why they can bet on crypto mining. By embracing crypto mining activities in the region, Pakistan and Iran may give other nations in the Middle East an example to follow. So here's the story. The Pakistani government appears to be moving quickly toward a pro-crypto stance. Following a commitment to integrate Bitcoin into its financial system last December, the country's taking steps to legalize mining. And Sumaira Shams, a member of the Provincial Assembly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, announced on Twitter that the body has voted to pass a law legalizing mining. And the idea is that by embracing mining, they hope to usher in the next financial revolution. The bill passed in a unanimous vote. Wow. Showing that legislators were indeed looking forward to bolstering their digital and financial spaces. Iran, purportedly, is also doubling down on mining. So Pakistan is not the only country in the Middle East that is moving quickly toward the legislation of mining. In fact, it currently trails Iran in that regard. Iran's embrace of crypto mining has been swift. The country initially outlawed the activity after noticing that citizens had begun operating mining outfits in mosques. Most mosques get electricity subsidies from the government, and these miners had set up operations to ensure that they would profit from it. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So although I don't condone the misappropriation of government electricity via mosques, that's at least a shady area, ethically speaking, I do certainly condone the idea of Iran getting into this activity at a national level in terms of really a geopolitical strategy. Look, guys, right now, the world is one big chessboard, and you do have countries like Iran. I'm not advocating for or against Iran, but taking their perspective, they have been crushed. The value of their fiat currency has been crushed, the rial, I believe. And it's just been decimated compared to the US dollar, for example. Their purchasing power has gone to absolute garbage. And add to that, very debilitating, very crippling sanctions now that they've suffered on the international stage. And so, again, from their perspective, getting into cryptocurrency is a way for them to protect their reserves as a country, and it's a way for them to bypass some of the restrictions that have been imposed upon them. You're also going to have other countries in the world, especially those that are dealing with fiat problems, hyperinflation problems. So Turkey, for example, Venezuela is another example. These countries are going to embrace cryptocurrency and Bitcoin without a second thought. The world is a giant chessboard. Just ask Zbigniew Brzezinski. Because you have this imbalance of fortunes between some countries and others, this imbalance of prosperity between nations, you're going to have necessarily some countries that have nothing to lose and that are going to take a risk on things that would otherwise be viewed as a gamble, conservatively or traditionally speaking. So enter Bitcoin. Of course, you have some countries that are going to give it a try. It's just one big game theory situation. It's a prisoner's dilemma kind of thing. And as soon as you have one country, in my opinion, that really gets on board, that establishes dominance in the Bitcoin, in the cryptocurrency space, it's just almost this arms race. Everybody else will have to participate. So I know we talk a lot about companies getting into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and altcoins, and then individual private retailers doing the same thing. Guys, the end game is that nation states are going to be getting into this, and not because they want to make a couple $1,000s, not because they want Lambos or whatnot, but for self-preservation reasons. And this is ultimately kind of a longer time frame horizon. We don't often talk about it as much, but I would not be surprised in the least that to see a Bitcoin, for example, talking about Bitcoin because it does represent sort of the Mac Daddy of all cryptocurrency and altcoins. But I wouldn't be surprised in the least in the next quarter century or so to see Bitcoin as the world reserve currency. And that's a broader video that we don't have to get into right now as far as the reasoning. But just at a top level, the devaluation of fiat currencies, the sinking influence of the US dollar and the euro are two primary reasons for that. And the fact that you just have countries out there that are willing to take a chance on this kind of stuff, because why not? They have nothing to lose. And it's looking better and better from a macro level. You can read here on the blockcrypto.com about how CoinShares is launching a physically backed Bitcoin ETP. And the product will be listed on Switzerland's SIX, that's SIX exchange. This is a physically backed ETP, which minimizes credit risk. CoinShares head of product, Townsend Lansing, told the Block. More information is available here on Cointelegraph.com. CoinShares to launch $200 million Bitcoin ETP on the Swiss Stock Exchange. And every single day, as you guys know, there's more and more news about institutions entering this space, about individuals, ultra high net worth individuals at the top level becoming bullish, going 180, changing their tune on Bitcoin here on Cointelegraph.com. Just yet another piece of news that you should incorporate into your media diet. Crypto startup Amber Group raises $530 million assets under management as institutions and as retail arrive. So in brief, things are looking pretty good right now at the macro level. Don't be too discouraged by the day-to-day fluctuations. Think ahead, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20, 50 years from now. Like I said, it's all one massive game theory simulation. The trend is obvious. We understand where things are going. And even beyond Ethereum, even beyond Bitcoin, we're seeing unbelievable activity in DeFi, in decentralized exchanges. Check this out here on Cointelegraph.com. Is $1 billion a day in volume the new normal for Uniswap? Uniswap could be averaging $1 billion in daily trade volume soon, with the majority of trades occurring between Ethereum and stablecoins. In fact, the Uniswap strategy lead here, Matteo Leibowitz, is indicating that $1 billion in daily trade volume is the new normal. And I think not only are we going to achieve that relatively soon, relatively easily, it could go well beyond $1 billion. We're still in the very, very early stages, guys. So we're only about 2/3 of the way into this month of January, and Uniswap's platform has already surpassed the previous monthly trade volume record of $15.3 billion that was set in September during the DeFi boom. The decentralized exchange passed $17 billion as of this morning, which was actually yesterday, and is on track to surpass $25 billion by the end of January with an average of $855 million. It would not surprise me in the least if the average daily volume in February surpasses 1 billion. Uniswap traders are spoilt for choice with 1,558 coins traded in more than 2,400 pairs. However, the majority tend to favor the less risky trades, trading between stablecoins such as USDC, Tether, DAI against Ethereum. That makes up about 45% of the $1.1 billion traded in the last 24 hours. I mentioned Dune Analytics earlier. Well, here we have the dashboard for DEX metrics. That's decentralized exchange. So as you can see here in the last 24 hours, you have almost $5 billion. That's $1,488 million in total volume in the last 24 hours. Also, you have figures here for 7-day, 30-day volume. DEX trading is down a little bit right now. Some of the numbers there, as you can see, look, they dip and dive from time to time. They'll come back up. DEX volume right now for the last day is led handsomely by Uniswap by a very wide margin, more than double SushiSwap, which is in position number 2. But Uniswap right now with over $750 million in these last 24 hours. So for a further breakdown of market share and additional information, including historical data, I highly recommend Dune Analytics here. We'll link to this. You can explore information and statistics linked not only to decentralized exchanges, of course, but all kinds of other spaces in crypto. So check it out. All right, let's finish off here with a note of positivity for a lot of the logistics-oriented projects out there in the altcoin space, notably VeChain and similar projects right now, which are up very significantly, likely due in part to some of this news that we're seeing. Leading automakers and technology companies advance blockchain vehicle identities that could help buyers avoid cars with incorrect mileage, incorrect maintenance, or damage histories. So the MOBI, that's the Mobility Open Blockchain Initiatives, their member-led vehicle identity, or VID2 working group, released the second installment of the industry's vehicle identity on blockchain. Andre Luckow is the head of emerging technologies at BMW. Here's what he had to say, quote, "At BMW, we strive to create seamless digital solutions. The reference architecture in the VID2 standard is a crucial building block in the transformation to a frictionless and trusted mobility ecosystem." BMW is also joined by Ford in this effort to effectively create blockchain birth certificates in order to combat fraud in the automotive space. So here on Cointelegraph.com, a global automotive consortium is leveraging blockchain-based, again, so-called birth certificates to track the purchase and maintenance history of second-hand vehicles. Vehicle registration on blockchain allows formerly disconnected vehicle registration systems between states and countries to connect using a secure, shared, and trusted ledger. Maintenance traceability will provide a tamper-proof history to buyers, regulators, and insurers, therefore reducing vehicle information asymmetry. I just want to leave it at that and leave open the thought experiment and ask you guys effectively, if this is the direction that we're heading in, and by every indication you have some of the biggest players in the space, BMW, Ford, likely others, that are pursuing this path. What do you think that means for projects like VeChain right now, which is up today alone 14.4%? I think VeChain is really one of the sleeping giants in this space. And, people somewhat chirped me last time. I think I called Theta a sleeping giant once it sat at about $1.4 or $5 billion market cap. And you guys were saying, well, it's no longer a sleeping giant. It's a sleeping something or other, but it's already a giant. And I respectfully disagree. When you look at the use cases for the logistics industry in this decade, in this century, and you think of all the problems that VeChain can solve, you think of all of the companies that would be gladly willing to just throw money at a solution if it were to guarantee a reduction in fraud. And for VeChain's just universal use cases alone, in terms of the potential that it has to offer, I still think, where it sits right now, $2.2 billion or so, I think that is a shockingly low market cap. So I will still very eagerly, very enthusiastically call VeChain a sleeping giant. It boggles the mind. Again, guys, we are very, very, very early stages. It's not just the automotive industry. It's not just Ford and BMW. When you think of the potential, it's just massive. So I'd like to leave it there on a good note. Let me know below. Hey, where do you think VeChain's going to go? VET all-time high during this altcoin cycle. Curious to hear your estimations there. But that is about it for today, everybody. Follow us on all the regular social media channels. Keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed today's video. Best of luck, of course, if you choose to invest, and stay safe out there, everybody. As always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.